Hi, everybody, and welcome to my micro budget feature webinar, my very first webinar. This is John Putch speaking. Sometimes I call this seminar, which I do at film festivals or events nationwide, different things. So when I'm away from Hollywood, I often call it the Anti-Hollwood Movie Seminar or the humanity of the micro budget movie. What we're going to have here today is a truncated version of a 4-hour seminar, basically two-thirds of the seminar I normally do. The only thing I'm going to be leaving out because of time is the film festival theory and strategy and the distribution nightmares of the independent micro budget feature. So if you want to hear more about that, maybe we'll do another one another time. But for now, we're going to launch into this. One of the things I always tell people when I do this thing is you're looking to and talking to a different animal that you're used to seeing coming out of LA, and that is that I'm a filmmaker, but I work in show business. And I happily take the earnings and I go off into the woods or into a different state or wherever I want to go with a script, some actors, and some digital cameras and make films. So if your goal as a filmmaker is to be noticed, famous, or appear on an award show, then this webinar slash seminar is not for you. The reason I'm here is I want to help you understand a few things about what goes on in Hollywood. And I want to motivate you to make your film with your own resources right here at home. And if you happen to be looking at the screen now, instead of getting up and walking away from the computer in disgust, you have seen a nice quote from Francois Truffaut. Here, this is something you'll never hear uttered at a motion picture studio or a TV network. This quote you can see right now. But you might hear this. I love it. We have no obligation to make art. None. This is my problem with movies today, and it's also why the independent film flourishes at a smaller level, but will, in my opinion, never compete because the best films made, in my opinion, are small, and movies about people and places and real events usually do not find their way into the cineplexes, where most of your entertainment, movie-wise, is delivered to everybody. Now, of course, we have Netflix and iTunes, and it's delivered everywhere now. But if you look closely at what your choices are and what's put in your face first, you'll see nothing but studio bloat. So these movies, small films, make you think. No creative decision is motivated by what this CEO here states. That brings me to my theory of art versus commerce, and who are you and what kind of filmmaker are you? I think art versus commerce, you could literally replace those words with widgets versus stories. Let's move on. Let's talk about this. Independent versus studio. To me, here on the left side of the screen, it to me is what represents an independent movie. And these are interesting paintings. And I use the word interesting because they, in my opinion, they would provoke conversation and thought and opinions and things and such matter. They may not just be for pure entertainment. They also could be looked at as art. Now here, let's look at what a studio gives us usually. Yeah, those are studio movies. You got that right. Look at that. Starting on the top, left to right, we've got cornflakes. That's an up the middle drama, if I ever saw one. And then there's a box, Cheerios. There's a box of light romantic comedy. And of course, next to Cheerios is Frankenberry. It's broad. It's a broad comedy. On the bottom row, we got Wheaties. That's, of course, the action adventure. And then, of course, we have family slash animation and Lucky Charms. And then for science fiction, we have Quisp, my favorite cereal when I was a young man. Look at that studio side. They're shiny. They're attention grabbing. There's no thinking needed. No thinking. Let's look at some of the art versus commerce examples from my experiences. These are movies that I have directed. And by the way, I skip over showing the trailers of these films because I'm not allowed on this webinar. But if you want to see any of these trailers, which make me laugh hysterically, you should go to putchfilms.com, putchfilms.com. So here's a mini series I did. This was a big budget and a big shoot, 60-day shoot The director's cut was amazing, I must say. But what ended up on television was pretty hilarious. That's a whole seminar in itself. But anyway, there's a big movie. Here's another big movie. This was made a few years ago. This actually was funded independently and distributed independently, but it was made by a bunch of rich guys who wanted to be in the movie business. That was an interesting shoot. Here's a comedy, 7 to 8 million, 30 days worth of shooting. Here's a TV movie. They're about 1.8 million. I think they're more these days. This one was from 2006, I think. 24-day shoot, getting shorter on the shoot days. There's more TV. Here's an average TV episode, 8 to 10 days. Again, a lot of money. These are half hours that have done, each interesting in their own way. Here's an independent film I did years ago with Frank Whaley and Annabeth Gish. $1.5 million on 35 millimeter film, which you never do anymore. 24-day shoot. Here's a movie that was only $500,000 in 18 days. A very fun experience. Completely fun. It got 33 audience awards in all its festivals. It had no stars, but it had success. It was barely distributed. And the reason I think is because it's a cereal box movie made like an art film. And guess what that equals? Nothing! All right, here's a movie that got me going with movies. In 1999, I mortgaged my house. And this is the movie I used to be taken seriously at the time. And it was only $300,000, 18 days. And I have a trailer I want to show you. Now there's no HD master of this movie because back when it was mastered, we only did them on Digibeta. So you're going to see a kind of a crappy, grainy trailer. But here it is. This is Valerie Flake, and then we'll talk about it right after.
What kind of name is Flake, exactly?
German Scottish.
Your application says that you've got a master's degree in fine arts at UCLA, consultant for 1 year, the Museum of Modern Art in New York City. What are you doing here?
Enjoying my career in food services.
Do you have any feelings for me at all?
No.
I don't hate men.
I don't hate them either. If I hated them, I would date them.
How do you think he would feel if he knew you were out tramping around with strange men?
It would kill him.
He smashed into a utility pole, and you had nothing to do with it.
Short of undergoing a lobotomy, I'm trying to erase the last 5 years of my life.
This has to do with your in-laws. They said they mailed you an invite to their 40th wedding anniversary in Palm Springs. They really want to see you, Valerie.
You're staying with us. I hope you realize that. I won't hear of any other plans.
Excuse me, miss?
Why do you only have one check stand open at 2 o'clock in the afternoon?
The same people keep calling in sick.
Fire them. Then fire yourself for growing that silly mustache. You shaved.
Yeah, better?
Grow it back.
Okay.
Look ahead. And
So this is gonna be your masterpiece.
I'm gonna call it Propellers on Stilts.
Here's $10. I want to commission a painting from you. Oh, Mom, this is, my friend, Valerie Flake.
What kind of a name is Flake exactly?
Irish Israeli.
All he's talked about is finding the right woman and starting a family.
What a coincidence. I'm just itching to make you a grandmother.
Don't lead him on.
Are you sure you want to get yourself into this?
Now, we can, go over the details after you move in tonight. I love you, Valerie.
I forgot to take my pill today.
before it breaks.
She told me you really wanted to be a father someday.
Someday.
Can't give you a time frame.
Your eternal optimism makes those who know you eternally lucky.
Painted in 1958.
59. February.
Marry me, Valerie.
Hey, I get off at 9! Will you be there, Valerie?
Just give me a few more minutes. Let me soak it in.
the $300,000 movie used to be just the backbreaker back in the 90s. And today, this could be a $60,000 movie. I, in fact, could make this movie today for 60,000 or less. And that, to me, illustrates how far we've come in terms of being able to make your movie. You don't have to mortgage your house anymore. But you're back to credit cards, except this time the credit card charge or the crowdfunding you've raised or whatever it is a manageable amount. I think the risk factor is so low now on features, micro budget features, that's of course that's why we're seeing so many of them. But if you're a professional and you sit around and complain about how mistreated you are in show business or in Hollywood, and you're not allowed to do this or that, then you need to get off your butt. Don't buy a Tesla, for God's sakes. Make a movie. Thank you. Rant. Okay, so now we're moving into the good times of low budget films here. This movie, Mojave Phone Booth, was where my digital rebellion began. It was my epiphany movie because it was the first movie that was a direct response to a job I had done in Hollywood, and it was that Poseidon adventure. As a direct response, I had to leave with $55,000, which I saved, and wrote a script with a colleague and got a bunch of actors together that I knew and had worked with before, and went out and made Mojave Phone Booth. This was the first HD film I ever made on one of those HD cameras at the time, which now we laugh at. It was an HDV camera. I think Sony came out with one in like 2005.
Where does it come from, Seriously, what's on it? In theory, you should be seeing less of it, right? With the popularity of digital and all. But there seems to be more of it now than ever. Maybe it's just a desert road phenomenon.
People used to drive all the way out here to talk to complete strangers. She met somebody in a chat room. Supposedly has some sort of a miracle cure that can only be administered in person.
Play this as needed, day or night. The more, the better.
The tape, what is it exactly?
I have no idea.
After a number of random dialings of the number, I began to reach random people.
Hello?
I wondered whether I might borrow some money. I'll pay you back.
Barry from last night, he was really into you after he met you. He wants to be with us. He'd pay us $10,000.
What?
Are we gonna do this? I shot a lot of video throughout our marriage. I was one of those freaks who documented everything.
My husband was trying to talk to me, but he didn't know how. He could only communicate with this stupid tape that he made.
What if some civilization peered in on us when we were at the height of using magnetic tape? What if this is the media they're using to contact us? What if these little ribbons are actually clusters of cosmic leaflets?
What do you think?
I think I'm bothered by all this tape.
So Mojave Phone Booth, it was, a dark response to what was going on at the time, and it came out pretty good. Okay, so then comes the movie in which I vanquished my rage for Hollywood and went towards the light. And the goal in this movie, Route 30, it was shot in my hometown of Chambersburg, Pennsylvania. The goal here was to be less professional and have more fun. So basically, stop being serious. Let's go Super 8 mode here. When I was a kid, I used to dress up as Batman, and my buddy would be Robin, and we'd stick cardboard fins on his mother's Pontiac Firebird, and we would shoot Super 8 movies in the alleys of Santa Monica, playing Batman and Robin, and then editing together, a movie of that. And that was fun. And we were very, very silly. So that was the goal with this next batch of movies. And here's what I had going for it. It was personal. It was the first movie I shot in my hometown, and I only collaborated with my actors and crew. And this is, let's watch this Route 30.
I don't mean to pry or anything, but aren't you Amish?
Yeah? So? I miss shaving my legs.
Oh.
I'm starting a new business, an internet porn site. And I need to come up with some really great fantasy scenes.
I told you I am not doing that shit on camera.
It's for my business.
Did you hear? Arden got attacked by Bigfoot the other day.
Bigfoot! 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 One of the devil's disciples.
If it has anything to do with the devil, maybe we could get Henry to help us.
There is no evil in God's perfect world. Therefore, there could be no Bigfoot monster in the forest.
I beg your pardon.
And up ahead is the Jenny Wade house, the only civilian killed during the Battle of Gettysburg.
I heard of her. She got shot in the ass while she was bent over the stove.
It's true, Mandy died from complications of being shot in the ass.
You can't die from getting shot in the ass. It's physically impossible.
Did I ever tell you about the time 10 years ago I was chased down to Route 30 by a cloven-hoofed demon?
Maybe it was a deer. Did you ever think of that?
Sure wasn't a white woman?
Don't you think I'd know if I was chased by a cloven-hoofed demon or not?
I wanted to be a singer in the live musicals, but there aren't that many opportunities around here.
I bet there are. You should look into that.
I would love to see a play someday in the theater with singing in it, like the programs on TV, but live.
Believe it, Arden. You have to believe it.
Is this theater for rent?
Sure it is. You interested?
I can run the lights.
Look good up there. Careful now. You might get to like it.
I'm doing what I've always wanted, and I gotta tell you, I've never felt better about it.
So you believe me? I believe anything's possible.
Not sure what I believe.
So I was right all along. She took it in heart, you know?
So that's Route 30. So that movie was so much fun. And as I was standing in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, premiering the film in a theater that I rented and I charged admission, people asked me, is there going to be a sequel? And the overwhelming joy of the process of this micro-budget movie was so awesome that I blurted out, it's going to be a trilogy. That was 2008. And here I am in 2014, and I've just completed the third movie. And I can't make them fast enough. The reason I'm telling you about this is because these movies were made in my hometown, where I have access and resources to so many things that I cannot procure elsewhere. Here's where, and I'm going to get into my digital rules with you guys in a minute here, but here's a guy who was so happy with his first movie at this level. There's a grown man, by the way, acting like a child here. So I went a little overboard here. I spent a little more money, saved up some more, and shot a little longer. Here's the sequel trailer.
I seen her once on this very road. About the same time of night, too, so it was.
Tonka tonka me!
A long time ago in an easterly state,
Nonka ponka chi!
the leaves having fallen to their wintry place, a little-known hamlet in this mountainous space was host to great intrigue. What is it? Shh. A mysterious case.
I was told of an ancient Indian curse.
On a dark country road one November at night, the strangest of strange began to take flight.
Well, I ain't never seen a ghost before.
It's still not quite certain, the events aforementioned. But here's what went down, and how it all happened.
Oh dear.
Looks like the white woman's got some company.
That, folks, is a bona fide extraterrestrial.
So what about the white woman?
She's been haunting this area for generations.
Don't you see what happened here tonight is historical?
Torque, do something!
Need a hand here! We've got something not of this earth.
Wonder what she wants this time.
I'm not done with Chambers Wig yet.
So that was hilarious. You'll notice the quality is getting better because the camera equipment has been changing. The third film, which is I'm finishing post now, is going to premiere in Gettysburg at the same theater on the square in Gettysburg, PA, on August 2nd, 2014 of this year.
There are no pictures of my folks in my photo album. I'm talking like a tax man from DC, and I met this beautiful girl who loves me.
Is that all?
No. I feel smarter.
It's time to come back now, Glenn.
Back where? And why do you keep calling me Glenn?
Because that's your name.
Sorry, miss. My name's Torque.
It is with heavy hearts that we gather here today to bid farewell to one of our dear friends. Most of you know him as Rotten Egg, but his given name was Walters.
How did you pass away? Everyone wants to know.
Now, what I'm about to tell you cannot leave this chapel.
Somebody's got to know what happened.
I heard he was just walking in the woods one day and just dropped dead.
That's not what I heard.
What'd you hear?
There's a guy up on South Mountain. He's a recluse. They call him Hatchet Jack.
If you buy that camera, you best be prepared for the truth.
What you talking about, old man?
The owner claimed it was special. He said it revealed the truth about whatever image it took.
Holy crap. See you wearing that shirt I got you last year for your birthday.
Yeah, I know.
You ever wear that shirt when you see Roxy?
I ain't stepping out on you. I think I've been called, Pastor.
By our Heavenly Father.
No, by the government.
You feeling okay? Did you know you were speaking German?
Nein! Nein, aufhören! Ich befehle dir aufzuhören!
He's losing it, folks!
Don't let anybody find out about your secret.
You're special, Glenn.
You really love a Torque's life?
Get your arms in the air, put your hands where I can see them.
My memory's a little rocky lately.
How's the arm? Having any trouble?
I do not have a bionic arm. Don't tell anybody, but I've been seeing him in my dreams.
All right, so there's 3 movies. If you total them all up, even if you include Mojave Phone Booth, that's 4 movies. They still cost less than Valerie Flake cost. Although, of course, none of them went to Sundance, but, that didn't get me anything. In the end, these 3 things have gotten me not only revenue, joy, close bonding friendships for the rest of my life, and better health overall as an artist. So here, let's look at these numbers here. Starting at the top, you'll see that the highest price is first as we move through all these things we've been looking over. And as you can see, as the budget gets lower, so what are these asterisks? What does this mean? The tinier the budget? Could that possibly mean? Yes. That means the higher satisfaction level.
I gotta get myself out of here. I'm tired of being stuck in second gear. I need a whiskey and maybe a beer, 'cause I'm over you.
The genesis for me of this movie was to do something completely different. I was working at a television movie house where I was making TV films and movies of the week. It was probably the most different environment I've ever been exposed to. The environment where the director was not the author of the film. So this movie for me basically was a tonic and an artistic expression. I regressed almost back to even before my student films, really, in scope.
All right, what we're doing is we're cutting out individual photos of actors' wardrobe and we're putting them in booklets that explain the continuity of the movie. So every actor at any given moment will be able to look at their book and they'll know exactly what they're wearing.
My name is Jerry Jacobs, and I was one of the producers on the movie. And I was also a crew member much of the time. Our crew was like, besides the actors and the director, was maybe 4 or 5 people at any one time. So I was the B camera operator a great deal of the time. I also did some booming and caused some trouble with the lights in such a way that they wouldn't ask me to do it anymore. This movie was really different than most traditional ways of shooting a movie. At the very beginning, we got a list of like 15, 20 rules from John Putch, the director, of things we couldn't do. All the equipment had to fit in the trunk of a couple of cars. I think we could never have more than 4 lights on a set at any one time. And although we've fudged the rules a little bit here and there, it really gave us a good guideline of how we were going to do it and keep it simple, which, as you know, movies never are too simple. The only places we had to get permits for sure was on the Boulder Highway in Las Vegas, which was like a $50 permit or something. And then where we actually had the phone booth out in the middle of Lancaster on a dirt road, I mean, literally a dirt road going nowhere, we had to get a permit in Los Angeles, and it was $1,500. And I remember we were all just appalled that it was $1,500 to shoot on a dirt road, but we could drive anywhere in Nevada for $50.
It was a fun experience. There was no pressure, and everybody had a vested interest in the final product, and I think it's going to show. I have faith.
What was really great about working this way, in comparison to like big movies and stuff, is that we'd block, we'd rehearse, we'd light, we'd shoot, and we did it all with 8 people. There's a camera guy, a sound guy, and a prop person, or our friend that came and helped us that day with sodas or brought lunch. So it tickled me to no end to like see that, because it can be done. It can be done if everybody helps.
So that gives you an idea of the scope of that, the first micro-budget movie. And this is probably something that a lot of the people watching right now, it seems normal to them, and that's great. But to those who don't, or think they need more than what they just saw, I'm here to tell you you don't. You can do it. You can do it with 3 people if you want. Let's sample some of them. Some of my self-imposed rules. I mainly got this idea from Lars Van Trier, who did that Dogma 95 rules back when he started making actual films with a Sony VHX 2000 camera, which was just a DV camcorder, and actually released them in theaters. They looked terrible, but it didn't matter because the content was important. Now, of course, everything can look beautiful because of the equipment we have. But here we go. Here's digital rule number 1 is, in my book, is the budget can't exceed 200,000. And the reason that is because I use the SAG ultra low budget agreement for my talent, for the talent that is Screen Actors Guild. And that is the cutoff point for the lowest wage that you can buy a SAG actor for the day, and that's $100. So if you keep your movie below 200, which is, to me, seems like a fortune at this point, you can enjoy the low price of the SAG ultra low budget agreement, and you are not obligated to use SAG members on this agreement. You could have 1 SAG member and 5 non if you wanted. You could have 5 SAG members and 10 non. It just doesn't. No, it's a very good contract because the actors like it because they get something for their trouble and time, and it's happiness for the production in terms of money. As you can see, here's what the budgets were on my micro budget films. Here's another rule: the crew cannot total more than 8 at one time. Here's a picture of this includes the director, writer, producers, everything, and let's. So why is this? Let's add it up on screen. Let's look at the picture on the right. So I've got a PA who did a lot of the camera carrying around and slating. I've got a boom guy. I've got an act. By the way, the boom guy also was an actor in that film. I've got an assistant and an actress in the background there. There's a cameraman. There's an actor in the foreground. There's me behind the monitor. Back there in the background is one guy for grip. And to the far right is a producer, my friend Jonathan, who produced Route 31. And he basically coordinated all the stuff that I couldn't do because I was too busy directing. And the reason you cannot have more than 8 at one time is because I don't believe you need more than 8. And it's all about logistics and mouths to feed and gas to buy. And if you're on location, it comes down to hotel rooms. So you want that number to be low. Here's rule number 3. Film equipment used must be able to fit into 2 cars. You might have heard Jerry Jacobs speak of that on the Mojave phone booth clip I just showed. So here's an example. This was part 2, Route 32. I had this little transit van, and everything fit in there. It was allowed to go into that van and my Ford Edge on the left. And that also was a picture car. Both vehicles were picture cars, by the way.
So we had to get everything in a truck in John's Pathfinder. John came up with this idea of getting this rooftop container, which we were able to put stands, C-stands, rolls of color, sunbounce, all that kind of stuff in there. We brought John's truck over to my place, backed it into the driveway. I had everything laid out in the driveway of what I wanted to get in there, and we spent a few hours figuring it out. So we got to PA, and I flew there, John drove there, and I loaded everything into the totem pole white Astro van. I think the van was manufactured in 1978 or something. I was a little nervous of it at first, but after you drive around a few times, especially in the rain and the fog and stuff, you kind of figure out how to drive it. We shot this on the Panasonic HVX200, which is P2 camera. The typical day was to shoot, we'd get back to our house and settle in, make a drink, and then we'd sit, and I'd have to sit down and download for about, it was about an hour or so.
So that was a little from part 1. That gave you an idea of, that's from the cameraman, Keith Duggan, who talked about how little he had. And with each film, I give him a little more equipment, but the promise is that if he asks for more equipment, he must be responsible for carrying it. A smart director of photography, which Keith is, realized he did not want to carry all that stuff and figured out a way to not have it. So this is how the 4 light system came into play. Natural light and 4 small lighting instruments. No grip equipment, no tents, nothing that can't fit in an SUV or a van. And you must be able to set it up and wrap in half an hour. So guess why we don't want a generator? Well, first of all, we have to tow it behind something. Now you need a vehicle to bring it, just to light something up at night. If you don't use lights, or you're using little China balls or practicals, the light that's available, you don't need to power other things. And when it comes to day for night, first thing I do is write every single night scene out of the script if possible, and if it has to be at night, I did day for night like they did in the old days. Here's an example. This is Route 32. This scene was shot at like 6:30 in the morning when there was just enough ambient light in the forest, and we stopped it down. So anyway, you get an idea. That's day for night. It looks pretty movie night to me. Looks pretty good. Add some crickets and you're done. You just don't want any direct sunlight on anything because that gives it away, and you don't want to shoot the sky. So here's a rule I love. The actors are responsible for their own wardrobe and makeup, except in the case of specialty wardrobe or special effects makeup, then I would provide it. And why is this? Well, that's one less person or crew department to worry about and to feed and to pay. Let's see how that worked out for this actress from Mojave phone booth.
Wardrobe was amazing. Bonnie was incredible. She created this wonderful folder for us that showed us exactly what we're wearing, when we're wearing it, what scene it's for, everything. And it was so detailed that it's hard to even think about, oh my gosh, what am I going to wear on this day? Did I wear that? How was my hair?
there were just so many things that she, included in her folder that made my job, so much easier. I didn't even have to think about it. So, God bless her. Having to do my own wardrobe and be in charge of all that, my hair and my makeup and everything, it's had it been with different people, which I've had happen, it's frightening. But since I was with this team and this group of people that had the same agenda, that we wanted to have a wonderful product, and I made notes for myself on those pages so that I knew how my hair was, and I knew the kind of makeup that I was using, and because there were different scenes, some scenes you needed more makeup than others, so it made a big difference, and it's such a wonderful, wonderful gift when you have people that are on the same page, and it's very rare. I don't care what kind of budget you have, it's very rare.
So interesting notion here. The reason I came up with this wardrobe book idea was because I couldn't sustain a separate wardrobe. Couldn't be just somebody on this crew who told people what to wear, and there's no script supervisor or continuity when I work on these because I'm the director and the editor. So I really don't need someone making script notes for me. So the reason I came up with this is because I didn't have the personnel. So what could I do? Well, how about a little guidebook that every actor gets to tell them what to wear when they come to work that day? Because all they have to do is look on the call sheet or the strip schedule and go, oh, that's scene 21, and there's an arrow pointing to it, and that's what I wear in scene 21. And so everyone had their little book. And of course, I had a master book with me on set. And whenever there was a question, I would pull that out and or hand it to them and say, "Here, check this if you don't remember." And so everybody got one of these. The cast all got them, but you have to get together with them and take pictures of their clothes. So it's all about being prepared, do this ahead of time, and then literally look them in the eye and say, "You cannot screw this up. If you don't wear the right clothes in the right scene, we're effed." This is from Route 32. As you can see, there's a picture of her outfit and all the scenes and the day breaks that occur. Aha, my favorite rule. There will be no honey wagons, trailers, or equipment trucks. Yes, yes. You know what that means? It means people will be responsible for themselves, and they will not be babied, and they will not be wondering who's picking me up. This is like heaven to someone who shows up on set in Hollywood and sees a parking lot filled with wagons and trucks and things that require gasoline and hundreds of people to administer to. So this is the delightful part. So if you're out of town, which I was for these movies, I had to put people up. The image you see on the left is a motel on a golf course in Pennsylvania called the Penn National Inn. Guess what? It also served as a location. So two of the characters in the film also stayed there. In the movie, we shot right in front of those buildings. We had permission. They loved it. And I had all of the actors in these two buildings at a very, very cheap rate because it was off season. And then on the image on the right were two tract homes that were owned by the Totem Pole Playhouse, where we also shot. And I have a history there, as my family used to operate it for 30 years. And I've been involved with the theater ever since. And they have these houses for their actors and crew. And guess what? I had 8 beds there, which guess what equals? That's the amount of crew. So I had 8 beds between these two houses, and guess what? It was also a location. So you got to use everything you got. Here's another rule. There's no vehicles. So if a character needs a certain kind of car, then the actor's car will be that character's car. So now you have to cast your actors and their cars. That's Dan Poole on the right, and that's his car back there, and that's his character's car. And the black car behind the camera is my car, and that served as these other characters' cars. So guess what? You drive to the set, you've already got your cars there for the scene. So no specialty vehicles. He just drove up, parked, and we shot. It's great. And Dan also brought his fellow actors that were in the scene to ride with him. It's fantastic. It's the way it should be. And that brings us to it's not about the money. Now here's Dana Delaney. She was in Route 31. I love her. And she's an actress who does not need the money. She wants to play good parts. And because I had an experience knowing her, I met her through Annabeth Gish, who starred in Mojave Phone Booth. And then I asked Dana to be involved in this film, and she was very interested in it. But you have to identify these type of people. Not everyone is, game for it. And you have to be able to know who it is. You can't just randomly pick your dream person out of a hat and approach them. You have to really, it's humanity, and it's about where people are in their lives, and that's who you want. You want someone who is not interested in the prestige and the celebrity and the money. They want a good role, or they want something different. And that's what this whole thing is about, doing something different. Which brings me to the celebrity card. Anyway, look at this crew. That's all you need right there. We're shooting a dialogue scene. There's 2 cameras, and there's a boom stick. The woods, the beautiful woods. That's all you need. But it's an ensemble film, so you got to figure out who you are and identify yourself in the big picture and collaborate and do it for the fun of it. Because I guarantee you good things will happen. I love this quote because it's so obvious and so correct. All right, so now let's move on to the no budget mindset and theory, and this is fantastic information I think that I've collected over the years. Look at that car mount. Look at that. It's a paparazzi clamp that you screw onto the window for paparazzis. They usually use it to point the other direction and get pictures of Lindsay Lohan flashing you, but we used it for car shots. That's a mouse pad, by the way, protecting the window. You have to identify the right personality. Other number one thing is you have to be a host and not a boss. This is really important because you need to make the experience collective. You can't be selfish. So the crew and the actors are doing you a favor by helping make your movie, not the other way around. And if you set up the emotional philosophy in this manner, you're going to have folks wanting to help and make it good rather than not caring about you and your film. People always ask me, how do you do this? Like, how do you know how much it's going to cost? Well, I say it's really easy. You just figure it out. I mean, you do the math per day, and it tells you, and it's going to tell you what you can afford. Here, let's do this. Look, say 1 day of shooting. You had 2 actors. Okay, you know that's going to cost you $200, right? Say you got 8 crew. You know that's $800. You got 10 mouths to feed now at $12 a head. That's 1 meal, lunch, right? Specialty items, what if you had to pay for a location or a prop or something you didn't have the access to? So you could look at that day. That day's $1,300. So you look at these numbers and you realize the less people per day, the less it costs. So if you only need 1 actor on a day of shooting, then drop the crew member down. Drop a crew member as well. If you can, use only the minimum to get that day done. Script link, everybody asks me what that is. Well, this is where you writers are going to have to really tighten your belt because of this kind of budget. You shouldn't have a script over 100 pages. Because if you think you can do 5 pages a day, you got a 20-day shoot. So the shorter the script, you're going to save money. The fewer characters, you're going to save money. That's the $13.20 a day on a 20-day shoot. That movie cost $26,400 just to get it shot, and then whatever it is you're going to spend in post. Now here's all the other stuff you can add on or expect to add on. You may or may not need to spend all this, but for sure you're going to need an insurance package. It costs a lot. Fuel is going to cost you unless you're, a stingy person and don't want to give people a little bit of gas money. That's post-production sound. You could get around that if you knew how to mix your own movie. And the score, if you have a buddy that's can do it for you and not cost you anything, you'll have a free original score. Anyway, if you can do that, if you can save the post-sound mix and the score, you just saved 10 grand. So let's talk about when you write your script. You have to look around and see what you have at your disposal, and then you want to write that into your script. It's not the other way around. You have to reverse engineer your story based on what you have at your disposal. So like if your uncle owns the Ford dealership, then the no-brainer production value move there would be your main character works at a Ford dealership. And all of a sudden you've got an amazing location. In Mojave phone booth, I went to Las Vegas to shoot. This is in Boulder, on the Boulder Highway. I knew the guy who ran this casino because I made friends with him when he used to work at another casino. I used to play blackjack a lot when I was younger and an actor. And I got to know this guy and we kept in touch. And one day I called and asked him, I said, hey, do you think I could shoot in your casino, which was a tiny little place? And he said, yeah. So based on that, yes, guess who the main characters where they worked? It took place in Vegas. So it worked out really well. I mean, that just made the whole movie. And look, I got these little cheap little costumes off the internet for the girls, the cocktail waitresses. And there's where my characters worked. I have to show you this location in Pennsylvania that's never ever been in a movie. And it's a place I used to go swimming at when I was a kid. It's this beautiful rock quarry out in the farmlands. And because it was one of my resources and something only I knew about, no one else could find this or use it in a movie but me. And I contacted the people, and they let us shoot there. And it was it was amazing. So look at this location, which was free, and it was one of my resources.
Beautiful, beautiful location, and it's closed to the public. Nobody can get in there anymore. And of course, because of Totem Pole and John and everybody going there as kids, we knew the family, got permission to shoot there with the correct approvals.
It was really outstanding when we rolled up there to shoot it. It was late October, and the colors had changed, and the sun was lower in the sky, and it was just amazing.
And we shot the final day of filming, which was there at the quarry, and it was a magnificent day. Sun, crisp, clear sky. We'd been rained out from the day before, so we flopped 2 days of the shoot. So there we were the last day.
I just couldn't get over how beautiful it was. And then each shot after the next was that much more beautiful.
And it also is now completely preserved forever for me. Not just in some Super 8 movie that I can't see because it's so grainy.
It was a little bigger than the day itself, just being there. It was great to be back. And of course the echo.
Hello? Echo!
That place, as you can see, was amazing. So what did I do? I dropped a bunch of dialogue scenes into that place. They were sitting there drinking beer talking. They were sitting there wondering about Bigfoot talking. They were, they were just talking. So why would you put them inside a building in the middle of that part of the country when you could put them on a bunch of lawn chairs drinking beer and eating pretzels and doing your screenplay there at that beautiful, beautiful quarry? So that is an example of maximizing your production value. Now I want you to do something because I can't show clips, but you need to rent this movie. The Brothers McMullen. It's what started Ed Burns' career. And here's why you're going to rent it. You're going to rent it and you're going to turn on the director's commentary because Ed Burns has no BS, and he talks about what he did and the common sense he used to get scenes in New York City. And it's a fantastic, it's a must watch for micro budgeters. So here, this is important. Now we're winding down here. You can't possibly write specialty props into your script that you cannot make or get yourself. You may not be able to put this in your movie. Don't be writing Top Gun movies if you want to make them on a micro budget. This is what I mean about reverse engineering. Same with locations. Do these kind of movies in places like this. You have to assess what you have access to. Then you try to incorporate them into your story, which is an amazingly blessed event because entire movie ideas can come from this notion. Now remember, you're writing this movie to make it, not sell it and compete with the Bourne Identity. Your goal is to make a movie. Worry about slaying Goliath, later in life or on the next film or the next film. Here's another thing that often writers don't understand. They write scenes with large crowds or extras because they don't understand that it's impossible to do. Here's a beautiful location from Route 31. There's this Ozark shack in right off Route 30, and this was all natural light. I mean, this is what it looked like shooting at this place. It's incredible, light filtering through the trees, just amazing stuff, and it was free. I don't like to have more than 4 people in a scene at once. If you're a novice and you haven't done this before, stick to this rule. If you know what you're doing and you're efficient with your camera and your shooting technique, then knock yourself out. Here's what a lot of people make this mistake about writing songs into your script that you have no idea or intention of getting. Oh, but I love this song. No, you can't have that song. You can't license music on no budget movies unless you have a relative who owns a band and all the music, then you can avoid licensing. But always use original music by a composer that you will control for the life of the movie. And this is hard for some writers, but that's just the way it is. I get calls all the time from filmmakers who say, "You were right, I shouldn't have put that song in because it's going to cost me $3,000 now to get it out. I have to remix my movie." Yup. No sympathy. And don't write night scenes into your script. Try to keep it all day. That's really important because you need lights if you shoot at night. And not only that, folks are tired. Nobody likes to shoot at night. It's a crappy idea. Now, if you have a vampire movie, it's not going to fit into this format of micro-budgeting, or you have to figure out a way to do it. When you're inside, you black the windows and you fake your night inside. But, when you're asking people to work for next to nothing, it's kind of crappy of you to say, "Hey, we're going to work from like 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. every day." You're not going to get anybody to help you. So think about that. See, there's all these restrictions that go into making a smaller movie, and you may think of them as negative, but I got to tell you, great stuff comes out of that stuff. Great stuff. Montages are a way to tell big changes in your story. And the value of good montage is just, you cannot equate the value of a good montage. Normally, I would show this incredible montage from the movie Up, which you guys, I'm sure, have all seen. It reduces people to tears, this montage, and it takes this couple through their entire life within the first 30 minutes of this movie, and it sets up who this guy is and where he came from and why he is the way he is. And you did not need 2 hours to find out. So a montage can be the key to everything. Now, when you get to the shoot, very important thing you must do, and that is pose really for stupid pictures like this behind the camera so you can post them to Facebook. You want people around you who you generally like. You want to make sure they're talented, especially if they're supposed to be in front of the camera. I've cast movies using Craigslist and some of the online casting services, and the actors are actually looking for you. So lots of times you'll find a gem that has no representation and wants to be in your movie. This actress, Katie Rail, read for the lead in Route 30, Part 2, and she posted, was out of New York, and she posted it on this casting networks thing that I put up. Really good actors submit on their own, and she came down. She did not get that role, but I asked her to come down and do one day on the movie and get out of town and meet some of these people that are involved because I liked her so much. And she came down and played Cousin Trudy in Route 32, one scene. We all got to know her, and then guess what? She was the female lead in Part 3, and she's a really good actress. I love working with her, so she's part of the troupe there. This is in all walks of filmmaking. The moment you start shooting a scene, it's going to change. It's never going to be the way you imagined it in your head, and it's never going to sound the way it sounds. So you should let it change, because good stuff can come from that. You have to trust the people who are interpreting your your story and your dialogue. So be ready to roll with that. Be ready to roll with logistical stuff. Like we had this day in Route 32, I wanted to shoot a dialogue scene on this hay baler out in the middle of this orchard in the wintertime, but it started to snow. And it snowed so much we couldn't shoot in it because we were just didn't have the covering, and it would look stupid if two people were sitting out on a thing in the snow just talking. So we look around and we have this beautiful round barn behind us, and that scene we ended up playing it in the doorway of the barn. They walk in, and there's the three angles, the master and the two singles. You got to recognize everyone and appreciate that they're helping you, and you need to thank them. That's really important, because remember, you're the host, you're not the boss. You got to have fun. Nothing can be that serious at $50,000. I'm sorry. Because when you look at it compared to $50 million, then you can, be worried about every single thing. But at 50 grand or 5 grand or 7 grand or whatever it is you're spending, it's relax. There it is. It's hard drives and backups. There's no more tape. Spend the money where it counts. Like I said before, the professional color correction and sound mix, Here's a color correction. There's before and after. I think that's pretty good. That's money well spent. That's raw from the camera on the left, and that's corrected on the right. The difference between, if you didn't have a good camera, a good DP at the time, this thing can really help you. This scene here, as you can see, it was very yellow and green, and the reverse was not because we used a different camera on the guy. Hey, you got to edit your own movie. At this level, unless you have a friend who'll do it for you. I recommend you learn how to edit using whatever program you want to use. Edit your film, you'll become a better director. You got to make a website for your movie. You got to do this before you make the film because you want it up there while you're making it, unless you want to make it a secret. Facebook's not the internet, by the way, so you need to make a website. You can't just have a Facebook page. By all means, have a Facebook page in addition to your website. But guess what? Not everyone uses Facebook. Facebook is not the internet. It's a closed system. I want to show you a little clip of something that the world premiere of Route 32, I believe. The kind of event we had to help, sell the movie and DVDs. Here it is.
Hello, Paper!
Capitol Theater in Chambersburg.
For the premiere of Route 32.
Step right up! Get your hot DVDs here! Enjoy Route 30 in the privacy of your own room!
Chambersburg, Pennsylvania for the Route 32. Do you have any breast spray? Yeah, I think that a little bit. Got it? Got it. All right, thank you. Just return it when you're done. Okay. All right, cool.
Very excited. My heart is thumping out of my chest.
See, that's a dream sequence. And that will be the first thing that they see when they wake up.
I'm really trying desperately to learn the accent, but it's not working out very well.
You're the first people that are ever seeing this movie.
If you stay on 30, your life will surely change. Go ahead and laugh. It's the land of weird and strange. Open up your eyes and see if you agree. Yeah, on Route 30 gets me nervy. You can take the low road right on down the hill. On Route 30 sure is pervy. But no matter where you go, you ain't far from Fayetteville. road, son. Route 30, that's the one. Let's get it on.
So that was a good example of, you know, a four-walled event where you actually, if you have a place to do this kind of thing at, and you have your DVDs made and available by the time you present the movie, you know, and of course, hopefully your movie's good and people show up, you could make a few bucks. Now, I've never made enough money on any of these movies to pay back the budgets, but remember, it's not about the money, and that's not why I'm doing them. I'm doing them because when it comes to art versus commerce, I'd rather it's more fun to do the art because I'm actually making the movie for me and what I want rather than for someone else. Here's the info on the films if you want to check out. There's a lot of video on these sites about these movies. You'll get a good idea about what it's the size and scope of it all. And that's about it. So I want to thank you for sitting here and putting up with my rant, and I hope you make your movie. And remember, hey, less professional, more fun. Make it a joyous experience and make it easy for yourself. Find ways to make it simple, because simplicity equals pleasantness and happiness. It should feel like a fun thing to do, not a hard thing to do. So if you use that as your backbone for every decision you make, you probably will find yourself with a very, very nice experience and a nice movie. So if you need any more information, go to these sites. You can also go to putchfilms.com, PUTCHFILMS.com. Keep me posted.